Hey everyone, what's up? It is Brad from T-Bolt Studios, and my little buddy Ronan here is going to help us with today's video because I'm on daddy duty. But I took these shots from my last brisket run through, and I know you're thinking, well, this is a YouTube channel for music and a recording studio. Why are we doing this? I'm really just sharing videos on things that I like, which generally involve my recording studio, which is based out of my home in North Texas. And as soon as it's safe again, we'll definitely get people in and recording and whatnot. Until then, I'm recording on my own, and little guy and I will do a couple of videos. But I have been trying to kind of figure out brisket over the last few years. I've been able to get a really good taste by experimenting, but I haven't been able to get the consistency I want. And without a doubt, I've been chasing the consistency and profile. Not necessarily the profile every time, but I've been trying to figure out what is Hutchins doing. Hutchins is the best barbecue I've ever had when it comes to ribs or brisket. So I've really been trying to get close to that as far as like texture, sometimes taste, things of that nature. So anyway, I've finally figured it out, or at least I got close, and then I found an article where they explain what they do. So this is kind of a hybrid of techniques. But anyway, I'll just take you through the steps, and this is the best brisket I've ever made for sure. All right, so first of all, we're going to start out. You want a decent cut of meat, or a very good cut of meat, and I don't always feel like spending that much money, so I went with decent to good. And you can see here, I just started to trim off some of the fat. This was about a 20-pound brisket when I started. I'm going to go ahead and call that trimmed. Maybe I took a few more little stabs at it and before I started, but that's about all I did. I've learned to not go completely crazy. When I started, I was really going very aggressive with my trimming, but I don't think that's necessary. A lot of that's going to render out, and you want to keep some of it so you don't dry out on long cooks. This is what I have found to be the best combination so far to get the taste that I like. So you're going to use the spicy brown mustard as a binder, like you put a coating on. And then primarily I use the Costco sweet mesquite seasoning as my main rub. I just love it. And then you can see best damn steak seasoning period from Premier Grilling, which you can order online if you don't have one near you, but there are a few in the North Texas area. Hey, what's up, buddy? Ronan wants to tell you a little bit. So you can see here I just started to coat the brisket. You want it a little thicker than that for sure with that mustard. So here's what it looks like at the end. Someone doesn't want to be on video anymore. And then I use my seasoning. And you just experiment, you find what you like. This is, again, I mentioned mostly the mesquite seasoning, followed up by some of the steak or beef seasoning. There's just another view. Beautiful in my opinion. All right, you can see 3 probes there. I get picked on sometimes when I share some of my pictures. A lot of times I'm sharing them, and there are several decent forums online. But if you're not a member of North Texas Barbecue Addicts, I'm going to say it's probably the biggest one that I found for sure. It's huge. I think they were at about 16,000 when I got in, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it's got to be 60,000 plus at this point, if not approaching 70. So I've learned 90% of what I've learned cooking on the grill through North Texas Barbecue Addicts. Anyhow, I get picked on a little bit for the probes. I like to understand the science of what's going on with meat. I won't do this forever. Again, I've only been trying brisket maybe 4 to 6 briskets a year for the last 2 years or so. So I think I finally got it figured out, but I like to understand what's happening inside the meat. So I usually do about 3 probes on a large piece of meat just to kind of see what's going on until I get to a point where I don't think I need them anymore. Here you can see how I used very similar ingredients to create a sauce or a rub or a mop or whatever you want to call it. I am trying to fairly closely follow the paleo diet, and if I have cheat meals, I don't want to come too far off of it. So this is a pretty good setup. The Gourmet Deli and Grillin' sauce is the best barbecue sauce. It's my favorite barbecue sauce, period. And you know, it's diabetic friendly. There's very low carb or sugars in it. And then clods, you know, that's my go-to as far as a, hey buddy, we're almost done. Ronan wants to say hi again, everyone. Say hi, bud. Clods is my go-to when it comes to beef marinade. You can trade any of these out for something similar and you'll end up in the same general ballpark. Oh, I forgot the A&W root beer. I like to include some soda in there. That was generally what I used to spray every 40 minutes or so, but I included a little bit of that in my mop as well. So I threw it in. I want to say we did about 225 degrees. And you can see the bark is starting to build up nicely. About every 40 minutes, I am running out and spraying it with a little bit of soda. Once you hit an internal temperature of, where did we land? I want to say 170 degrees or so. That beef is, hey. You like the brisket? Is that what's going on, bud? Once you hit about 170 degrees internal temperature on beef, it's no longer going to absorb any smoke, or so little that it won't make a difference. So the method that I've learned is I like to go ahead and wrap it at that point, and I'm gonna mop it with my mop. You can see the top left there, I've already got some of it going, and in that little bowl out to the right, you can see the reflection. There's some of my sauce there. So I'm gonna just rub the whole thing down with that, and then I'm gonna dump the remainder, maybe a quarter to a half a cup of liquid in the foil, and we're gonna wrap it up as tight as we can. You wanna make sure that once those liquids in there start bubbling a little bit, you know, because they probably will, you wanna make sure that they don't, you know, come pouring out, because that will make a mess, definitely. Okay, well this is when I unwrapped it. So let me go back for a second. You're gonna wrap it, and then you can put it back in your smoker, or, you know, I just do the easy way and I throw it in the oven. And, you know, I'll tell you to finish it, you're gonna keep it at the same, like 225, 250. Some people crank it up a little more just to push through and get it done quicker. What I like doing, especially with a large brisket, I'm kind of lazy. I'm not necessarily a traditionalist. Hi, but he really likes to look at that brisket. I'm not necessarily a traditionalist, so what I like to do is throw it in the oven at night, and then put it down to like 170, 180, and just let it roll all night with, you know, basically you're roasting it at this point. It's got all that smoke, it's wrapped, there's some of that liquid coating it. Just put it on 170, 180 overnight and let it roll until I wake up. I don't have to babysit a smoker, I don't have to babysit the piece of meat, and I know it's not gonna dry out. What you're gonna do then is, you know, either if you follow that method, when you wake up in the morning, you just crank the temp back up to maybe 225, 250, or, you know, if you decide to stay up all night and babysit it, you can skip that whole step and you just keep cranking at 225 to 250. Once your internal temperature hits about 203 degrees is when you want to pull it. And there's a lot of debate on, you know, wrapping it in towels and putting it in the cooler. I just leave it wrapped in that foil, maybe throw a towel over it, and I just set it on top of the stove and let it come to room temperature, or let it drop in the room temperature. When your internal temperature hits 140 degrees, that's when you want to go ahead and cut it. So you slice it up against the grain. Here's where I pulled it out, and then I let it sit for probably took 3.5 hours, unwrapped it, and just after this I started to cut it. We were at about 140 degrees right there. But in my opinion, that looks beautiful. And it was tender all the way throughout. This thing was probably on heat for 30 hours. And again, not because it had to be, but, you know, it probably needed about 14 to 18, but I wanted to sleep throughout the night. Little guy wasn't feeling well, and I thought, let's let him sleep. I don't want to wake anyone up. I don't want to get up. I could use a sleep. So I just let it roll overnight at about 170, 180 in the oven. So all together we had a little over 30 hours, and this thing was, parts of it wouldn't even slice. They just pulled apart because it was so moist, and you know, it had broken down a good bit, and then there were parts of it that would slice just barely. And that's really how I like it. I don't necessarily go for your traditional slices that you would see at competition. So this is not a competition brisket. This is just a damn good Texas-style brisket that I'm talking about. What else do we have? All right, that's it. That's the last one. You cut it and you eat it. I will come back and do a similar video for ribs, some of the best ribs I've ever had. And, you know, at some point soon, I'll share some more music. Thanks a lot. Say bye, Ronan. Bye, everyone.